Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Cheryl Jennison DeProza, and today I'm joined by my fellow Shure colleague, Laura Davidson, and special guest, Matt Ramsey. And today they're going to be talking us through some microphone techniques for live vocalists. But before we get into that, I'm going to launch a poll. How exciting. We're kicking it off with a bang. So I'm going to launch this poll right here. And you should see it. So please go ahead and answer this question. What is your level of microphone knowledge? Are you an expert? Do you know more than the average vocalist? You know what a mic is, but you want to learn how to use it, or you don't even know what a mic is. Any of those are appropriate. And while you guys are answering that question, I'm going to go through the exciting housekeeping. First of all, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing. It usually takes us about a week or so to get it edited and get all the audio and video just pristine for you guys. But once it is ready, it will be available at shure.com/webinars. That's shure.com/webinars. You can go there for all of your webinar needs. We have all of our upcoming events listed there. We also have our past webinars listed. Lots of great topics across all sorts of things in audio, so that's shure.com/webinars. And second of all, as we go through the session today, if you have any questions, please feel free to type those into the question pane. If you don't see a question pane, maybe sort of look for a question mark icon, or if you're using the webinar desktop app, look for a dark gray toolbar with an orange box with a white arrow in it. Click on that orange box with a white arrow and you should see the Q&A section. And ask any questions you have, but please note that we will be holding on those until the end of the session. All right. Poll is rolling. It's been up for just about a minute and 25 seconds. We've got 80%, which I think is a pretty good number. So I am gonna close this down so we can discuss the results. And I'm gonna share the results. So here we are. This is what we're dealing with here. Just a couple of experts. A lot of people that know more than the average vocalist, but probably pick up some more. Some people that need to learn more, and 3% that don't know what a microphone is. So I'm going to guess that we have a little bit of something for everybody today, but that is where we are.
I think I was the one that put "what's a microphone." That might have been a miscue. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
It's the thing right next to you, Matt.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what we're talking about today.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, that's great because we have a nice mixed bag of people here, and we are going to cover some basics and go a little more in depth and then do some fun like live demonstrations. Not many know this outside of the Shure community. Well, if you're in Chicago, you know this, but Cheryl is also a total rock star. So we might be asking her to sing a little bit because like, why not?
I had a gig yesterday. You didn't warn me. I'm not warmed up.
I know, I barely am as well. Well, let's jump in because we have so much fun stuff to talk about and we just want to share all the things with you. So first up, I want you to meet Matt because Matt, I think I met you through a joint effort that we did with Focusrite. And then I was like, this guy's awesome. He's a vocal coach on YouTube and is in Austin, which is like music capital of the world right now. And so I was like, hey, let's do this webinar on how to use a microphone properly. And he said, all right. Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself other than your 4 bullet points?
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, guys. This is what an introduction. So for anybody that doesn't know who I am, besides Laura's lovely intro, my name is Matt Ramsey. I'm the founder of RamseyVoice.com and the Ramsey Voice Studio YouTube channel. I live here in Austin with my partner Monica and our dog Lola. Lola's not pictured there, but we're gonna fix that on the next slide. Just kidding. Now, like many teachers, I kind of started off by teaching private lessons, and then I had some great students that were like, hey, dude, you're really smart and you seem to know what you're doing. You should start a YouTube channel. And so I did that. And that was over 5 years ago. Now I've got over 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. Whoop, whoop. Super excited about that. That's been an amazing journey. But even still, with my videos reaching lots and lots of folks, I still read all of the comments and I respond to them and stuff like that. And I still saw that there were a lot of people that were pretty confused about some of the topics that I was teaching. And so I created the Master Your Voice Singing program, which is the only singing program out there that combines the power of personal feedback, with a proven set of exercises. So as soon as you enroll, you sing something, we give you some feedback on what's going on there. And just a humble brag, as I said earlier, 5-star rated vocal coach, and I've taught over 1,000 in-person students to sing more in tune, expand their range, and gain vocal control.
Which is no small feat, just FYI. I'm sure many of you have seen Matt's content. I hope a lot of you came to us from him. So we're so excited to have you here with us, Matt. And we're gonna have fun talking about microphones. And that's where I come in, because I work for Shure in something called market development, which basically means I would normally be out on the road talking with people like you in person, which we're starting to do again, which is super exciting. Just kind of going over what the brand is, what we make, how we make your life a little bit easier and more fun. But I'm also a singer-songwriter. I used to be a demo singer in Nashville. I still do demos for people remotely. And I was a backing vocalist for a long time. And I'm a mom and a wife and all those other things. So that's me in a very small nutshell. So, all right, let's talk about what we're going to go over today. So we're going to talk about the microphones themselves. So the 2% of you who are experts, or 3%, or the people who know a little bit, the 59% can just like go get a coffee or something during that. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go through the microphones and how they actually work. And then we're going to go into some do's and don'ts. Matt's going to cover that. And we're going to do some perfect placement things. And then, then we're going to do some singing and maybe cover how to find a microphone that's going to be good for you. Hopefully it'll all kind of wrap up around
And
that.
can I just jump in real quick on that, Laura, is that I'm really personally excited for all the folks that are here to kind of watch this little mic 101 thing that Laura put together, because even I learned more about the way that microphones work. And like, even we're going to try to not be like too over the head sciencey or anything like that. But there are some cool diagrams that kind of show you actually how microphones really work. And I think it's really, really interesting. So even, I think it was like the 40% of you guys that said you know more than the average vocalist, you'll probably still learn something by watching this introduction. And then we're going to get into the really practical stuff. And then, I don't think Laura mentioned this yet, but we're actually going to be applying this to a real singer, Laura, who's an amazing vocalist. And so I'm super excited to be here and get started.
Nice. Yeah, I never get to sing. So this is really cool on these things, at least. And hopefully, again, we'll get Cheryl to maybe participate if she's like warming up off camera right now. All right. So let's jump in. The Q&A. Yeah. And the Q&A, Cheryl said we'll save to the end. But if we see anything pop in, it's kind of not as interactive in GoToWebinar. So you can put kind of comments and questions in the Q&A. And as we see them, we will try to make you feel welcome and heard. Okay, so let's jump right in and talk about microphones, because we're going to be talking about dynamic, condenser, and ribbon microphones, just an overview, but the ones we're focusing on in this particular presentation will be dynamic microphones, specifically for live vocalists, although we make some killer live condenser microphones like this Beta 87. All right, so how does a microphone work? This is pretty basic overview stuff here, but dynamic microphones specifically like an SM58 or an SM57, and this is a 58 with its windscreen taken off, which might resemble a 57 because they are the same microphone. Not many people know that, but
you are dropping some major knowledge already. You're spilling the company's secrets, Laura. Are you telling me?
Yeah, it's not. I know. Now it's a secret. I'm fired. No. So they are the same capsule, but when you put this on here, it does change your frequency response. So that's why there's different applications for a 57 as opposed to a 58. But the way that it works is in that picture that you're seeing where it's kind of cut in half. This is your diaphragm here underneath this little piece of foam. And it is a thin piece of material that's attached to a wire coil, and that's surrounding a magnet. And so when you talk into it or you sing or any sort of sound that goes into it, it vibrates the diaphragm because it's really sensitive, and it moves that coil around the magnet, which creates an electromagnetic signal like this. And then that converts your acoustic energy and your voice, in other words, into an electrical signal that can be amplified. So it sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not. It's just physics. Like you sing, it vibrates, creates that signal, goes down the mic cable out to the board, and then you are heard. Magic bananas. So that's how a dynamic microphone works. And why these are so cool is, and great for live vocal applications specifically, is because you have to put a little bit more oomph into them, for lack of a better term, to get that coil to move, they can take a lot more SPL, so sound pressure levels. So you can sing a little bit louder into the microphone to make it physically react, as opposed to something like the condenser microphone, this guy, like our Beta 87A that I have right here. This is for stage use. Typically you see them in studios, like, oh, I can't even reach it, but I have my KSM32 over there. Diaphragms in a condenser microphone are much more sensitive. So the way that those physically work is that you have to use something called phantom power. Maybe you've heard about that. And that is what's electrically charging a back plate. So instead of having that magnetic coil and everything to move, all you have to do is physically move the diaphragm via the signal that you're producing, sound, speech, vocals, and then it will produce that electrical signal and field between the diaphragm and that electrically charged plates. So it takes a lot less effort to make that move. So that's why dynamics are great for louder applications, typically, and condensers are better in controlled environments because it takes much less to move that diaphragm. Hopefully y'all are with me at this point. Matt, are you with me?
I'm totally with you, and that makes sense. And maybe we could open this up to a question. Could anybody list an instrument that typically, we're speaking very, very generally, an instrument typically or generally that you might want to use a dynamic microphone with?
That's a good question.
And an instrument that you might typically want to use a condenser. Now, obviously, there's lots of different microphones for lots of different applications, but like if we're talking about like physically moving the diaphragm inside of the microphone with a dynamic, and in this case, we have an electrified backplate that's a lot more sensitive. What are some instruments that could work well for both of those? And you guys can go ahead and type in your questions, and I'll let Laura continue.
Awesome. Cool. So the other microphone type that I wanted to tell you about is one that not many have heard of necessarily, but it actually predates the diaphragms that we've talked about before, the dynamic and the condenser, the ribbon diaphragm. And so the way this works is it's a very, very thin piece of material. Ours is made out of something called Roswellite, which sounds like it's from space. And it's a much more durable material than what ribbon microphones were previously made of. Now, these came out early turn of the century, like 1900s era, and they were much too sensitive for some applications because that diaphragm material was so thin that it would just bend and break. So what the benefit is to that material, and ours does not do that, is that it's able to capture the most natural reproduction of the sound. So it's because it takes so little effort to move it, and it's actually suspended between two magnets. That's where you're seeing that north and south magnetic pole. You just can capture a lot more detail and natural characteristic of whatever source you are trying to mic. So this is really great for electric guitar. It's really great for vocals in certain applications. My voice, ribbon mics, I'm still on the fence. But really great for anything with natural detail, strings, and they're naturally bipolar, or they're bidirectional, we say. So they can pick up from the front and rear of the microphone. So that's really cool if you're a guitarist and a singer. You can mic your guitar cabinet as well as the reflections off the wall to get like the sound of the room at the same time using one mic. So that's kind of a random piece of knowledge there, but that's the three microphone types that we want to talk about: dynamic, condenser, ribbon. But for our purposes today, we're going to be talking about dynamic microphones. And your microphone is an instrument. And this is something that's kind of like a personal crusade for me. So when I met Matt, and it was his as well, kind of, we were like, oh my gosh, we're kindred spirits. Because singers, I think we go to gigs, we go to the studio, and we just show up and we use kind of whatever's there. And we want to tell you and help you learn why it's so important to select a microphone that enhances your voice, which is your instrument. And so your microphone is really your instrument. So Matt.
Absolutely. We absolutely do. And Laura, could we just go back one? I just want to see whether Cheryl had any good answers to the question that I posed to the folks out there.
Yeah, we have some great stuff. Some people were chiming with flutes, clarinets, string or violin instruments for condensers,
Nice.
a studio, a choir, a room mic. Somebody also miking for acoustic guitars. A couple of people have said trumpet. kind of depends, I think, on what kind of sound you're wanting to. Somebody else had chimed in that maybe trumpet might be better with dynamic. People have chimed in with drums, but drums are definitely, you know, once again, kind of depends on the drum and the sound you're going for.
Right.
Horns, yeah, lots of different suggestions here.
Yeah, and
Nice.
absolutely. And would you say that it's kind of fair to categorize those three kinds of mics that you listed, Laura, as like from least sensitive to most sensitive, and in terms of the dynamic condenser and the ribbon? Is that kind of fair to generalize that way, that the ribbon's most sensitive?
Yeah, the way that ours is built, it's made it a lot more sturdy, but yes, the way that it reacts, it's able to capture a lot more of the natural details from a sensitivity standpoint.
Absolutely. And what I love about, as Laura mentioned, what we were talking about earlier, is that, you know, so many, and you can go ahead and advance to the next slide, is that, you know, so many singers that I meet are talking about this microphone like it's just this piece of equipment that's kind of like an afterthought, and they think that it's, you know, they know it's an important thing, but they still think of it as like almost an appliance. And the metaphor that I like to use is, I don't know if you guys can see it over there, but you know, you'll spend like $1,000 plus on a great guitar. And then are the amplifiers that you use a total afterthought to that? No, I have a Marshall back there. I have a Fender Blues Jr., and those are amplifying the sound that I'm creating with the guitar. So in this kind of metaphor, you can think of the guitar as your main instrument, as your voice, but the amplifier is also going to color that sound completely. The same thing I think is true of the voice and your microphone. Your microphone is really an extension of this instrument. And in fact, I think you could even make the argument that it is an instrument in itself. So I always like to say, like, so many singers that I've met are like, oh yeah, I got this pedal, and you know, I just got this Gibson SG and stuff like that. And it's like they completely, and they either are very, very beginners at learning how to sing, or they don't know anything about microphone technique. And it's like, these are important factors to keep in mind too, and to invest in, frankly. And one thing that Laura and I have been talking about is how, you know, a microphone is really in itself an amazing instrument that has been designed over decades and decades and decades of time to make you sound your very best. It's not just like this thing that's like kind of like, okay, I guess I'll get a microphone. No, like there should be a why. There should be some thought put into like why you're choosing that microphone. And that leads us beautifully into the don'ts, Laura, which is that, you know, since so much time has been spent putting into designing these microphones to be used a certain way, you want to make sure that you're not misusing them. So in this case, I'm just going to do a poor demonstration because it's not going to affect this mic terribly. But we're on these beautiful Shure MV7s. And if I cup the microphone like this, you're still going to hear a lot of kind of interference with the sound, whereas when I don't cup the microphone, in other words, when I let the microphone just kind of breathe, you're going to get so many more of those sound waves and so much more of that rich harmonic spectrum there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of my like public service announcement that I give to everybody, is just basically, you know, you think that it's going to look really cool, but it's going to bring feedback into the mix. It's going to turn your dynamic microphone into an omnidirectional microphone that's going to feed back and squeal. And you heard when Matt cupped the mic, what a difference that it made, because it closed off the ports. Because on these microphones, all of this open air space in here is there very specifically and for a reason. And that's to let all of the sound go into the microphone in a very specific way so that it's channeled into the microphone and received. So if you cover it up, it's not good. So I have this little meme in case you forget. So, you know, we designed this beautiful pneumatic shock mount handle for our SM58. This is the handle, which means it's going to have low handling noise, in case you're wondering what pneumatic shock mount means. This is not a handle. So just don't ruin decades of hard design work.
But Laura, what if it looks cooler like this? Then what do you do?
I don't know. Who started it? Can we just like figure out who started it and just like
who's to blame here?
Lap them around a little bit. I mean, because I don't know. Why does it look cool? Like, does it, I don't know. I feel like I can look just as cool, gripping it from the
Totally.
actual intended handle. But just to kind of demonstrate here again, let me see if I can switch this up. So I have our KSM8 microphone here. I'm going to switch it over to this. Hopefully you can still hear me, Matt. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this microphone, if I cup it like this, you can see it turns off all the sounds. It makes me sound like I'm in a horrible, horrible space. So, again, it's meant to have airflow. It's meant to have sound flow. And if you cup it, you're making it work harder and you're making it work wrong. So don't cup the mic. That's the moral of the story.
Right.
Okay.
And also, I think just to jump in there, Laura, I think it was really interesting when you were switching between those two mics. Could we just do something crazy for a second? Could you just sing like a line on both of those different mics, or maybe you have another mic that you want to try as well. But just to hear the difference. So in your left hand, you have the KSM8, which is your signature kind of live dynamic microphone, right?
Well, the 58 would be. We can actually switch it up to that if you want. Hold on a sec.
Sure, let's go crazy. And I was just thinking that we could kind of like have Laura sing a line on each microphone just to kind of hear the difference. So if you can switch between the dynamic and the live condenser that you have, that would maybe kind of demonstrate like the difference between the condenser and the dynamic. So why don't we start from then? You said Shallow, right? Has anybody heard this song? There's a song called Shallow.
There's a song called Shallow. Yeah. Yeah. Shallow.
I don't know if you guys can hear that that piano.
A little bit.
Tell me something, girl. You can start from Tell Me Something, Boy. And why don't we just
Tell me something, boy. Yeah.
Good.
Aren't you tired of trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Okay, so you'll hear on the dynamic microphone, it's got a little bit heavy mid-range in a good way for speech. Actually, the 58 is geared towards speech. But if we were to switch it up over to a condenser, it's going to be a lot more sensitive in a good way. So hold on. Okay, so this is our Beta 87A. Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired of trying to fill that void? So you can hear a little more presence in the mids and highs because this microphone has a tailored frequency response to pick up those higher, more pleasant, more subtle frequencies, as opposed to the 58, which is meant to be kind of middle of the road for a multitude of applications, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like this tool that's supposed to be able to work for lots of different stuff, whereas the condenser, the live condenser that you used is like very specifically for, voice and even singing specifically. Right. Awesome. Right.
And then we have the MV7. In case you're wondering, this is a dynamic microphone.
It is.
So this is kind of an odd bird in the lineup because typically you think studio mic, podcasting mic, a lot of people go with condensers, but why the MV7, just a quick aside, why it's so cool is because it rejects a lot of the sounds coming into the mic because it's a dynamic. It takes more energy to move that diaphragm. It also has voice isolation technology, meaning it's going to block signal coming in from the rear and sides. So this microphone is really great for applications like my room, which have bouncy surfaces everywhere and not a perfectly acoustically treated room. So sorry.
And this room as well. Absolutely. Yeah. If I was on my condenser, you would hear a lot more echoing.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. Let's keep going here. So
and just a quick poll. Are you guys finding this helpful so far? Is this all making sense? Is everybody liking this? This is all important and helpful and all that good stuff. And we'll let people answer while we continue. So
before we jump into the next section, we do have some people that have chimed in about mic cupping. So I just thought I'd maybe kind of jump in with that. Somebody says here, it doesn't look cool. It makes you look like an amateur, LOL. Only time I cup the mic is when I'm intentionally wanting that old time lo-fi transistor radio sound for a second, which is a really good point and one I hadn't thought about. You can definitely use it as an effect, Next comment here. I like proximity effect. I'm a bass singer, but I never cup. Although I don't know if proximity effect affected by cupping so much, or is that more?
No, so proximity effect, that's a really cool thing to talk about. Proximity effect is what happens when you get up on the mic and you'll hear as I talk that it gets kind of boomier and muddier because it's a buildup of those low end frequencies. So if you are a bass singer, you can use that to your advantage because you can bring out that richness. If you want to maintain intelligibility and clarity of the voice, you don't want to be right up on the mic, which we'll talk about in this next section. So it's a good
No
segue.
way. No way. Are we going to talk? We're going to talk about that right now. Okay, let's do it.
Right.
So
just a few more comments though, since we've got him here. Although it does help with normal singing, cupping the mic does help with blocking background noise, which is used more with beatboxing. Any comments about that? I know that beatboxers do actually use it as another tool.
They do, but unfortunately, it's still not going to block out or achieve that desired effect. So yes, you're right. Beatboxers do typically do that, but unfortunately, they're compromising the sound of the microphone by cupping it. There are some microphone capsules that are designed to kind of reject even more, like with this Beta 87A or the Beta 58 specifically, they have a super cardioid pickup pattern, which is how the microphone hears the source, and that's a tighter polar pattern. So that would be what we would recommend for a beatboxer, as opposed to going with a standard cardioid pickup pattern, which is prone to picking up a little bit more going down into the mic. But you don't have to block out sounds going down. It's really just how you utilize the mic and how you work it, and that's what we're going to kind of dive into a little bit. But that is a good point.
And beyond supercardioid, actually, I'll point out I'm using a slightly blinged out KSM 9HS, which is a kind of fringe spinoff from our KSM 9 condenser microphone. And I use this one because it's actually an even tighter pattern than the supercardioid. It's a hypercardioid. So it's even tighter, even more rejection. I like to use this with loud outfits because it helps me but you have to stay in front of it, because if you go off to the side, you're going to lose a lot of audio. So yeah.
And for the folks that don't know, would you guys like to define cardioid?
Yep. So cardioid pickup pattern is cardio coming from heart. So it's a heart-shaped polar pattern, which we did not talk about in this particular presentation, but essentially it's the most common polar pattern. And it's how the microphone picks up the sound. So if you think about it, as Cheryl demonstrated, if you go off axis from the mic like this, in a cardioid mic, it's not going to hear you as much because it's meant to pick up what's directly in front of it. Omnidirectional, omni being for all. So that's when you cup it, you're making it hear all the things, which is good for like choir applications, ceiling microphones, things like that. But anything that's directional would start at a cardioid and then go to the super or the hypercardioid. And then there's that mono bidirectional mode, which we talked about, the ribbon microphone that is both sides of the diaphragm hearing equally. And there's a few more, but those are the most common.
And then speaking of omnidirectional, because we just talked about a little bit now, and when it also came up when we were talking about why you don't want to cup a mic, somebody did ask, what's wrong with an Omni mic?
Nothing. Omni mics are great for the right applications. Lavalier microphones, omnidirectional almost all the time, because if you clip it to your shirt, that's like what TV announcers use. You want it to be able to pick up everything so that it's not trying as hard, because you don't want it right up here directionally in front of the source. So Omni mics are great, but not when you're on stage cupping them and turning your cardioid mic into an omnidirectional, because it will squeal and feedback and it's not good.
Yeah, so there are no bad microphones, just bad people, just to clarify, right? Is that?
No, just bad applications. Improper applications.
And improper use. Nice, man.
And then somebody did ask, why cupping would create that unwanted feedback. And I'll kind of speak to that. It's as we said, that Omni is picking up in all directions. And when you're on a loud stage and you have a floor wedge right in front of you and you suddenly make your mic an omnidirectional microphone, that means that what causes feedback is when a speaker picks up the sound source that it creates that loop of it's picking up the sound that it's already producing. So that's why you want to be careful with Omni microphones in a loud stage environment, is you're going to create that feedback loop because an Omni will pick up from all sides and will be then picking up that speaker that is making that sound. So science.
So while
physics.
Omni sounds like a really great idea, like, oh, it'll just pick up everything, I can use it for everything. No, it's very specific applications.
Right. Right.
Great.
Again, decades have gone into engineering these mics exactly the way that they are, and there's a reason why they're shaped that way.
Right.
And lots of people then chiming in, Matt, that yes, everything is helpful. Keep going, enjoying so far. So we're doing great.
Great. We're gonna bring it back and make it just a little bit simpler for a second. Go ahead and advance to the next slide, Laura. We're gonna talk about just the right microphone placement. Now, this is something that a lot of beginning singers tend to get wrong. As Laura mentioned earlier, it's very, very easy when you're a beginning singer or a beginning, actually using a microphone, that you want to get right up on the microphone because, I think there's a sense of security to it. And you'll probably see in your favorite movies, where they're right up on the mic the entire time. However, this isn't always the best placement for you when you're actually singing. For the reasons that Laura already mentioned, which is that oftentimes you're going to get that buildup of low end frequencies, which we call the proximity effect. And so instead of that, you don't want to be like right up on the mic. And I think a lot of singers do that because it makes them feel anchored. It makes them feel like, or maybe you're a guitar player and like being right up on the mic makes you feel like a little bit more stable. Instead, what you want to do is you want to follow our 2-finger rule. We want to just keep 2 fingers off the mic while singing. Now, this is not, this is just kind of a general kind of rule of thumb. It does not have to be followed in every single. Oh yeah, 2 fingers and the rule of thumb.
What is this? Is my thumb or is it these two? Look, what if I have really big fingers or really small? Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
But Matt, I'm very short. I have very small fingers.
Tiny fingers. That's okay.
I didn't realize that we were being discriminatory there. We need to be more inclusive to people with fingers of all sizes.
Yes.
And in general, what you can think of is, and we put this in 2 different ways. Sorry, I'm laughing. Is that you can keep 2 fingers off the mic, and you can also think about 1.5 inches. Or I don't know what that would be in centimeters for the people outside of the U.S. Probably like 6 centimeters or something like that. I don't know. But basically, what we're looking for is we're looking to keep just a little distance off the microphone. If you go too close, and you can go ahead and advance to the next slide. If you go too close, then you're going to what we call eat the microphone, and that can cause the proximity effect of if you hear me go but, and you hear all those big puffs of air. You probably heard it when I said puff as well. When you hear those plosives just like so kind of abundant in there. That's just kind of like a small example of kind of what you get with the proximity effect, where all of a sudden you're getting this big buildup of low end frequencies. So instead of doing that, what we want to do is we want to keep those 2 fingers away from the microphone. And we also don't want to be too far away from the microphone either.
Yeah, because then you can't hear us. I mean, that's not good at all. Yeah, these are directional microphones. A lot of people think that microphones can hear. They don't hear. They're kind of dumb. They're beautiful, but they're kind of dumb. So, they don't listen or hear. They pick up what is in front of them. And that's where the polar pattern becomes so important and why your application dictates what type of polar pattern you want to go with. So for live applications, that cardioid, super cardioid, or hyper are a really great choice for that. But don't get too close. Don't be too far. We'll show you that in a minute.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool to see Laura kind of pull back off of her microphone a lot, because even though you could still hear what she was saying, you could also hear how echoey her room was. You can probably hear the same thing when I do it, except that I'm not monitoring myself currently, so I can just hear what other people are doing. But when she came right back up on the mic, all of a sudden her voice was crystal clear again. And that's exactly what you're looking for.
Yes, we like that.
I also want to point out that backing off the mic has we've talked a lot about the close side of proximity effect and how it makes you sound really boomy. Sometimes it's something you want, sometimes it's not. But the opposite of proximity effect is when you get away, the sound quality it gets thinner. The closer is that boomy, muddier sound, but the further away is thinner. So proximity effect affects both directions of how close you get to the mic. So just wanted to mention that while we were on it.
And proximity effect, I feel like we're saying this a lot, but it's really beneficial when you're doing things like podcasting. If you want to have that like really radio broadcasty kind of voice, you can get up on that mic. Right. I'm Terry Gross, and welcome to Fresh Air. Yeah, like if you want to have that really rich resonant sound, that's when it's beneficial. If you're singing and you want to be intelligible, I would recommend that 1.5 inches or 2 fingers off. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully
Yeah,
said.
and somebody had said in the comments, proximity effects, they said it exactly. Sounds like NPR voice.
Yes. Live from NPR, I'm Laura Davidson. All right, excellent. So that's our good rule of thumb. I'm going to use that all the time now. 2 fingers off, 2 thumbs or 2 fingers, whatever. All right, we have another poll for everybody just to kind of split things up. Although you guys, your participation has been pretty rocking, which I'm really digging, although we can't see it, but Cheryl can. So we have another poll. So let's ask that.
All right, launching the poll. So here we go. If you had a gig, would you feel comfortable bringing your own mic? Totally. I know how I want to sound. Heck no. Have you seen the sound person? It depends on the gig. I would if I knew how to approach the front of house engineer. All right, so votes are starting to roll in.
And I like to see you just imagine if you had a gig. That's what Matt wanted to say. So don't be like, what if I don't gig? I don't know. What if I just sing in my living room? Well, that's cool too, but we just kind of want to know like your level of comfort, basically.
All right, so I like watching you guys can't see it, but I get to see the percentages jumping as people vote in. So we're currently almost at 50%. We'll give it a few more minutes.
We should have left an other, like, I would never gig, it's too scary, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
What's a gig? Someone from like another country. What gig? What is this gig? Yeah.
In a gig is a musical performance.
Yes.
In case you weren't aware. Something that's been quite elusive over the last 1.5 years, but seems to be coming back online.
I know, that's actually, I didn't even think about asking it that way, but like you should be even more comfortable with bringing your own mic at this point. Don't leave home without it.
Just for sanitation. Yeah, just for safety's sake here.
All right. So we're getting close. We're at 74%
Nice.
people who have voted. I'll just give it one more moment. I think we got everybody that's going to vote. So I'm going to close the poll and show you the results. So here are our results. It looks like most people are definitely down for bringing their own mic. And then the second number 2 is that it depends on the gig.
Perfect.
A third vote is I would if I knew how to approach the front of house engineer, which is a good point and one I'm hoping you two are planning on going into. And then the last one is the heck no. Have you seen this? I don't even know what that means. Heck no. Have you seen the sound person? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you see the sound person and that definitely makes you want to plug in your own mic.
Right. Yeah.
True. That's a good point, Cheryl.
Or is it like that they wouldn't know what to do with it even if I had a fantastic mic? Was that where you were going with that, Laura?
I think it was more like the front of house person is really intimidating and scary. So it's kind of similar to that I would if I knew how to approach, but like I'm not going up to that person because normally front of house is also your monitor engineer and is also like the bar back and is also so they're doing some things and you don't want to go up there and be like, hey, can I use my mic? Because they might be scary. So
right. Totally.
That was my thought process. I don't know. So yeah, there are ways to approach the sound engineer and yes, Cheryl will kind of go into that. But yeah, next up that we're gonna touch on here are microphone and vocal techniques specifically. So
yeah, so bringing it all kind of full circle, just talking about like, everything that we've learned so far about, having this 2 fingers off rule and, choosing the right microphone for your voice and just kind of applying it full circle to actual vocal technique and how all this stuff, plays in together. Go ahead and proceed to the next slide. And we're just proceed. And so you put 2 singers together.
Vocalists to do a presentation. This is just dangerous. 3 singers. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
People are just like, oh gosh, this is what happens.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
They're all singers too, right?
They're vocalists as well. They get it.
Yes.
And so I know that this sounds kind of simple, but just for the people that are kind of just getting started off with this, and as we kind of alluded to earlier, you do want to pull off when you're going for those really high notes, or when you're belting, when you're gonna to put it into vocal terms, when you get the chords to close, the vocal cords to close, they're creating more resistance to the air from your lungs. And as a result, they're vibrating faster and more loudly, and they're creating these really strong vibrations. So if you're going from that, I got another confession to make, going for that really kind of like Dave Grohl, really yelly, belty kind of sound, notice that I pulled off the mic in order to do that. If I did that right here, it wouldn't sound as good. This is a better placement for more mid-range dynamics of vocals. And if I was doing, an Elliott Smith, I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl, then being right up on the mic, I could probably have been even a little bit closer, probably would have been fine. We were mentioning earlier that microphone placement can probably vary depending on what genre you're singing, but also even the different dynamics within the song that you're singing. So you may be singing a rock song that has some quiet parts and then some louder parts, and figuring out kind of how to back off on the mic for really, really high or really loud sounds is important to do. Maybe getting a little bit closer for the quieter stuff. And all the reason for that is because too much volume, too close to the mic is going to overload the diaphragm. And as we mentioned earlier, our rule of two thumbs today is that you want to keep that 2-finger rule off of the mic. And that's a great place to get started. Like if you don't know where to put your face when you're right next to the microphone, 1.5 inches, 2 fingers off.
Where do I put my face? Where do I put it? That's amazing.
I know people are wondering. Just give the people.
Right here.
That's it.
Just right
there.
My forehead. Yeah.
That's right. That might be good for nasal resonance. But that's a great place to get started. And then you can back off from there as you need to, or you can get closer from there as you need to. Go ahead.
Yes, but on the other side of the coin, don't pull back too far, right, Matt?
Right. Yeah, for the same reason that we talked about earlier, and like Cheryl mentioned so astutely, was that you're going to get a much thinner sound if you back off too far. So if I go, I got another confession to make, like I'm probably losing a lot of the richness and fullness that I do want in that big belty kind of sound. So like kind of a middle, I got another confession to make is probably, well, I haven't checked my levels here, but hopefully that's a better placement for it.
Yes. Who knew that Matt had his inner Dave Grohl, like just ready to rock? I mean, color me impressed right now.
Dave's always there. He's always ready. He's always ready to rock. He's my favorite, belty singer to kind of to feature, because there's, I think, and we can go off on this later, but I think that there's good belting and bad belting, and Dave, God bless him, he's one of my favorite singers. That is bad belting. That's how you really destroy your voice. That's how you destroy it. But there are lots of singers that sing that way, and they need to learn how to do it much more healthfully and also in a much more efficient way. But that's one of my great go-to kind of examples of like, this is how a really, really belty singer would approach a note, and it's the reality. This is how people really sing. And so we just need to take that into account and make sure that, people aren't actually destroying their voices.
That's always good. We don't want that.
We don't.
So here's a good question that popped up since we're talking about this. In general, how far is too far? Is it like the rule of forearm?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's about like 6 inches is going to be the max that I would, unless you're really pulling off to belt, which we can demonstrate. But yeah, 6 inches, like if I'm back this far, it's not ideal. So the 2-finger rule, the forearm.
A forearm is too far.
Distance. Forearm is too far. Yeah,
that's right.
And then somebody also said, what about backing off the mic when you're singing background vocals, then getting closer when you're singing lead?
Yeah, I think that's probably Yeah, I mean, I could see how that could work out because I mean, just from my own personal perspective, and I want you to jump in on this too, Laura. But you as a backup singer, you don't want to overpower the lead singer. You don't. That's not really your role. Your role is more of a supportive role. And so, maybe that thinner sound would actually be preferable to kind of fill out the rest of the range while the lead singer is kind of dominating most of that frequency spectrum. Then you're kind of just like filling in the sides. But I'd love to hear your perspective on it too, Laura.
That's interesting. Yes, I suppose you could do it that way. Although I'm more of the school of thought that you should not adjust your microphone technique based on what you're doing. You should allow your front of house engineer to do their job and adjust accordingly. So as a singer, don't compromise how you're using the mic because that instrument and your instrument are not going to change. If you need to be in more of a background role and you need your level down, that's when you can communicate to front of house, or maybe in your monitors, you're hearing something where you're sticking out a little bit more to say to your engineer, hey, take me down a little bit in the mix. But no, you could sing the same way that you always would. Because I mean, backing vocalists have to belt too, and you don't want to be belting back here because then the engineer is going to have to fight to get you where you need to be. So don't compromise.
Don't compromise.
Yeah, I'm gonna, as a fellow backup singer, I'm going to definitely agree with that. Like you've got to at a certain point, especially when it comes to that, you kind of have to let go and let your front of house engineer. And then I also did want to chime in. I know we kind of razzed front of house a little bit earlier, and we do have several front of house engineers on the session with us today, and we love a good front of house engineer. So please, you guys, we know that you guys are kind of the unsung heroes of every gig, and without them, nothing happens. So we appreciate you guys and gals.
And that's the thing though, like approaching the front of house engineer, Cheryl, you had mentioned, can be really intimidating. So if any of our FOH people on the call want to say, here's how you should, that's great. But like typically you don't want to go in guns hot. Like you want to go up with respect and say, hey, I brought my own mic. Is it cool if I use it? Maybe you're familiar with it. You could even take it one step further and know like what that microphone is why it resonates so well with your particular voice.
Right.
Like you could know your frequency range if you want to get super fancy. And then just say, I really like how it sounds with my voice. Are you cool with it? As opposed to just being like, I have my own mic, so wire it up. I mean, like, what if you went there and you're using a condenser and you didn't even know it was a condenser, and then you're like, it's not working. Well, it needs phantom power, things like that. So know your mic if you are bringing a mic, but also when you approach front of house, just be super respectful because they're probably trying to mic up 17 other things, and you just have to say like, I'd really like to use this one if that's cool, and then go from there. Basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, respect is always a great way to start.
Yes, but be, confident enough to know that you've done the research, you know that this microphone is the one that you want to use because you've tried it, not because your friend said, go buy this mic, it's awesome. And, or your favorite YouTuber uses it, Matt, or whatever. So, just make sure you do the research.
Wow.
And test
Just
I mean,
really razzing all your key demographics here. Just
everything
really...
Matt says, trust him and go buy it, please. All of the Shure mics.
And we do have a front of house engineer that's chimed in. Please talk to us. We like to help.
Yay.
And then somebody else in terms of, talking.
Is it you, Willa?
Oh, it might be. I got rid of the comment. I've got so many comments. I'm trying to get rid of the ones that I've brought in.
I love it.
Somebody else said here, I really like it when an artist introduces themselves to me before a gig, then I can address you personally by name. Just talk to me. You may know something I don't.
Yes.
So if I do sounding, yes, just ask us. We want you to sound best. Remember, if you sound good, we look good. LOL. And then somebody else about singing backups and going back off. If you're too far away, we may struggle with feedback when we try to turn you up. So, I think we're all in it together. And, I think it's really nice to hear our front of house representatives saying, talk to us. Let's do this together. So They're the
And
extra
it's
man in
important-
your band that night.
It's important to learn your front of house engineer's name so that you're not like, hey, can you turn me up? Like, that is the worst. You got to know names. They need to know your name. You need to know their name. So
Just a
that's
few
good.
more I want to chime in with, because we just have so many great comments coming in, and
I
thank you
love it.
everybody. Somebody said don't forget to bring the mic clip. So that's a good. I like this
Shure
tip.
microphones come with, which is nice because not all microphones do. So
Is there an adapter for this?
yeah.
Here's
You forget
another
your
really good one, especially if you're unsure or nervous to approach the front of house. Here's my mic and here's a beer for you.
Perfect.
Yes, please come up and introduce yourself and be pleasant. I have no problem with the singer bringing their own mic. Easiest approach is to just say, hey, can I use my mic tonight? It makes me sound the way I want to sound. Come say hi. We're here to make musicians sound their best. But then what do you do if you end up in one of those front of house, set it and forget it type of situations? I'm sure we'll kind of maybe get into that. But yeah, lots of good comments. So sorry, I'll stop interjecting and let you guys move on.
Great.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we can't hear you guys. We can't see you guys. So your comments and your questions are the way that we know that we're not all just making fools of ourselves and just talking to ourselves. Yeah, exactly. Thank you guys so much for chiming in. Well, shall we jump into a little bit of a demonstration here, Laura?
Yeah, let's do it.
Is that where we're at? Is that part of the evening?
It is that part of the evening.
Well,
Yes.
it's that time of the evening again. And okay,
Wow.
wonderful.
Goodness.
So
Okay.
what I was thinking is, and Laura and I haven't really rehearsed this, but she is, as I mentioned, a phenomenal singer, and she's been able to catch on to what I've been doing so far. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take I don't know why we're obsessed with Shallow. I guess everyone's obsessed with Shallow right now. But I was thinking that we could do Always Remember Us This Way, so that an Arizona sky.
Star is Born. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Did
we're
I
going
say
to kind
Shallow?
of demonstrate. Okay. What are we wanting to demonstrate? Our placement here?
Yeah,
There we go.
let's do a couple things. First of all, so you're on the KSM8 dynamic, right?
I am, yes. There's something
Beautiful.
special about this microphone though, because this one has a larger sweet spot, as we call it. So it is a cardioid microphone, pickup pattern here, dynamic microphone, but it has 2 diaphragms. So I won't get into the techiness of it, but what it's essentially doing is eliminating the proximity effect or alleviating it. So you can get up on it. It also has a really insane sweet spot. So if I'm off axis, it's still picking me up, which is just super trippy if you're using this as a singer and you're used to a mic that just drops out like that, like Cheryl's. This is crazy and it takes a minute. So it's got its advantages though, to where it's able to pick up more of the details and let you get a little more nuanced with it. And so, sorry, had to let
No,
you
that's
know.
it. That's shout out to the KSM8. It's a great mic. I just did a video using that. I'm not sure when you guys are going to release that, but you guys will probably see that soon. Never. Yes.
It's coming.
But
It's coming.
I was thinking what we would do is number one, we could just demonstrate, too close, just right, and too far. So our little Goldilocks. And we could just do that, maybe on a couple lines in the verse. So then, an Arizona sky burning in your eyes. Why don't we start from there?
Too close? Too
Yeah,
close?
too
This is Too
close.
close. All right. That Arizona sky burning in your eyes. You look at me, babe, I wanna catch on fire.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great. Now let's compare that to just right. 2 fingers off, 2 thumbs off.
2 fingers. That Arizona sky burning in your eyes. You look at me, and babe, I wanna catch on fire.
Good. Now too far.
That Arizona sky, or this, burning in your eyes. You look at me, and babe, I wanna catch on fire. Oh, we should have
Love
said
it.
put on some headphones if you have some headphones. I forgot that disclaimer.
Well,
My
I think
bad.
I think those differences were still pretty dramatic. And just to throw a question out to y'all, what difference did you guys hear between the too close, just right, and too far And maybe, Cheryl, you can jump in too about the differences that you heard. For me personally, I can just say that the just right distance was perfect, even for this kind of quieter dynamic. Like you would think that for a really quiet dynamic, like being right up on the microphone would still be good. It still sounded good because it's a KSM8 microphone and it's designed to be able to eliminate some of that proximity effect. But it was still better when she practiced her 2 fingers off roll.
Oh, and I had it a little quiet too. I just realized. My bad, because I'm switching between sources here. So thank you for bearing with me.
No, it sounds great.
No, it was a little from my end, and also keep in mind with all of this, we're also dealing with audio over internet.
Yes,
so, you know, we're definitely missing. Yeah, it's definitely not going to sound as good as if we were in the same room together on a beautiful PA system. But yeah, and definitely it almost.
Y'all, I'm dry. There's no effects on here, so please be kind.
No reverb, no talent button. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. To me, it almost sounded distorted when you got too close. And now that you have upped your level a little bit, I think we're definitely going to get more distortion if you do anything close up. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's do something crazy. Let's go from the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go from there. And when I'm oh, hey there.
Yeah.
So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, that part right there. Let's do that. And go ahead and just do it just straight, like how you would normally do it, 2 fingers off, using all the good technique and all that stuff. And then we'll play around with it.
Okay. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts.
Awesome. Now do that same thing and don't pull off of the mic. In other words,
when
do it
I'm
wrong.
all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts.
Now, for all of the vocalists who are listening in the audience, listen to her consonants there. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, those kind of plosive and hard palate consonants like k, 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 and stuff like that, and t, 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 those were really, really present when she was too close. And when she pulled off, it softened them just the right amount. Now, me as a vocal coach,
I cheated using the super schmancy mic. I'm going to switch it up to a 58 just so you can have that. And actually, can you guys? No, hold on. Yeah.
You want to do it again?
Yeah, well, yeah, just so you can hear the plosives a little bit more.
Totally.
When I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. So if you don't pull off on this, you have the more. Yeah.
Oh, it was totally distorted too. It was totally distorted when you did that. So let's show them the right way. Is like and you know, I think that many singers just do this intuitively. They learn that when they start to feel like they're going to push more, they start to gently pull back on the mic. And I think that that's a really good kind of feeling to have. So go ahead and do that one more time, and we'll just kind of take note on what you did naturally. Do it again.
So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words,
right.
Every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts.
Good. Now, just like searching your memory, if you can remember, because I think that, again, you do this very intuitively. What were the words that you pulled back on? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, I pulled back on words because like that can overload the mic just in and how that vowel sound hits the diaphragm. Yeah.
Yeah. The semi-vowels. Yeah, the semi-vowels that start off as a narrower version of whatever vowel they're going to become. A semi-vowel, by the way, w is an example of that. V is another one. And you can think of a we, right? It starts off with my lips very narrowed, and then it actually turns into the vowel that it's going to become. We, or way. And that can be very helpful from a vocal technique perspective for the people that need to sing a little bit more narrow. However, in this particular case, I think you actually even pulled off on I can't find. So when I'm all choked up and I can't, like when you were like ready to go for that belted note, you like already started to pull back a little bit. And I think that that's so smart. are people finding this helpful? Is this interesting to folks? I just want to make sure, because we're just
Yeah,
like,
we have some comments too. Somebody just said, "Yikes! It vibrated my laptop when she was too close." So,
sorry.
Headphones, but watch those laptop speakers. You never know what those are going to do.
Right. Let's
see, and then yes, somebody made this comment, and I actually am wondering kind of about it too. I think so. The comment is the setup sounds like she has a compressor, so when she belts up close, it's clipping due to the compressor, which is another pitfall worth discussion. I don't believe you have a compressor going on, but I think we're dealing with once again what I mentioned earlier, audio over the internet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm using this for those playing along at home, and using this. This is our MVI single channel interface, and I'm in flat mode. So there is no DSP processing happening right now. So you're hearing GoTo trying its best to squash things. And I actually did not even optimize that because I'm so familiar with Zoom and Teams and not GoToMeeting. So I don't even know if there's something I can do to alleviate that. But no, there's no compression. No compression.
Yeah. Do you want to get even crazy? We literally have not rehearsed this, but can we try the last chorus? When I'm all choked up and I can't find the words. Can we go into that? I know. Do you feel like you got it in you?
Sure. Why not? On this mic? So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words. That was
Yeah. So that got cut off there. Is there another way that we could hear those notes, do you think? Cheryl, is there anything that we could do?
I mean, I can't really control the way GoToWebinar processes audio. Sorry, friends.
I wasn't sure if there was a way that you can like turn on like, music mode like you can with Zoom.
No,
but let's
do.
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe there might be. Let me just say that right now. We just haven't done many webinars with this kind of level of live demo. So there might be. I would have to research it. Probably not going to happen today. Sorry, everyone.
No worries. I was just curious. Could you try that same thing on the MV7, Laura? Let's just see if that makes any difference whatsoever.
Now this one, hold on. I have to switch my outputs over here too because I'm fancy like that. This one does have DSP processing because I am going via USB. So It's going to have a little bit of compression and EQ but yeah. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find words.
Nice. Now, just
not warmed up.
it sounds great. Just from a vocal technique perspective, I think you sound really wonderful. And if anyone at home is interested, I'm just going to have Laura switch one very simple thing. I'm trying to trick her. So basically, we're going up to an E5 up there, which is that is high. That's in the middle of the female second passage for anyone that's kind of familiar with like the vocal technique stuff. First passage tends to start around an A4, ends around a C#5, and then the second passage picks right back up around that E5. So she's going for this really, really high note, and she's going there with this loud volume. Now, I'm just going to ask you to do one very simple thing there, Laura, is rather than spread on find the words, can you drop the jaw slightly rather than words? So still be thinking find, but rather than find, think find. Can you try that again?
So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words.
Yeah. So we took it away from her. We took away that temptation of find the words. Try it one more time.
Yeah.
No. It's great. Just try this real quick. Can you go? Mom, just on a mum, like a mother.
Mom. Sorry.
That's it. Yep, and just come back to your chest voice whenever you feel like. So that mom, and nice and strong.
Mom.
You're cool.
Make me do warm-ups.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
Now here.
Mom.
That's it.
Mom.
That's the note. That's the note where she starts coming back and has a little bit of connection back with her chest voice again. So we're going to take that feeling and we're going to start bringing that back up again. Can you do that one more time, Laura, just like you were? So, mom, 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 mom.
Mom.
Good. Keep that feeling.
Mom.
Love it. Beautiful.
Mom.
Good. Relax the jaw.
Mom.
Ooh, try to keep some of that connection to that kind of spoken mom feeling there too.
Mom.
Good. Two more.
Mom.
And last one.
Mom.
Good. Now let's go back to the music. And so go from that. But now I'm all choked up and I can't find the words. Same thing. You're just thinking a slight fa-ah feeling up in there.
Now I'm all choked up and I can't find the words.
Love it. Love it. Now we're at words. Try not to chase it with your body. Try to keep it really relaxed. I know it's hard.
When I'm all choked up and I can't find the words.
Love it. Great job. Great job.
Cheryl's
Now,
got to do it. You should hear Cheryl's range. It's insane. She's like
Cheryl,
my
you wanna try?
soprano goddess.
I don't even know this. I don't even know shallow.
This isn't shallow. This is
okay.
Always remember us that way. But that's okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
And anyone that's following along at home.
Enough of my vocal techniques. Let's talk about microphones. Who cares about my voice?
Just to kind of wrap that part up. The reason that I was being picky about that with Laura is because if you spread your mouth too wide, it kind of engages some of these extrinsic muscles in your throat, which can oftentimes make it even harder to get up to those top notes or make you flip. So you sing, ah, and all of a sudden your voice just cracks rather than keeping this, this kind of relaxed feeling across your entire range. And so when I saw that she was going, find the words, there is no doubt that that is exactly what Lady Gaga does. And the reason that Lady Gaga and the reason that Laura can do it so well is because they're both fantastic singers. However, if I was dealing with someone that was maybe a little bit more of a beginner there, almost undoubtedly, they would either they would just push up to that note, or they would or they would just kind of flip to it, which is what Laura was doing a little bit towards the end there. So in order to avoid that, to kind of relax the throat a little bit more, rather than going so wide on find, I'm just having her go a little bit more towards find. That kind of a feeling there.
Open it and relax it.
100%. Yep, just to illustrate the logic. But I think we've got time for some Q&A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a little over, but we can certainly dive in, get some of these questions. There were a couple of questions about this, and you guys didn't cover it, so I think it's a good topic to bring up, about foam windscreens and foam covers. Are they detrimental to the sound of the mic? Does the two-finger rule apply when you're using a foam windscreen? Can you talk a little bit about foam windscreens and how that affects your vocal technique?
Yeah, so foam windscreens are there to help alleviate plosives in this application, in our MV7 application. If you're using one on a live event, you're probably outside, and it's meant to help cut down on some of the wind noise that the microphone is prone to picking up, because again, mics are dumb, they do not discriminate, they listen to all the things coming into it. So a foam windscreen can help reduce that. So they are not inherently going to change the sound of the microphone except make it slightly less intelligible, but no. The way these are designed is to let your sound come through, but cut down on plosives, as you can hear. So there you go.
And the other question actually had a good side note about it. After asking the question about what impact it would have, they said they're probably most likely going to use foam windscreens to help with like hygiene. That might be a good, we can't obviously say what is, safest. We don't want to necessarily put ourselves in a danger zone, but that is something that might help you if, you're using the same mic for multiple people.
Yes.
There are a couple of questions.
We do have some
Go ahead.
cleaning recommendations on Shure.com. So,
Maybe it's time to jump to that because we did have quite a few questions about cleaning and sanitizing and can I wipe my mic and all of that. And there is a fairly robust new section about how to clean and sanitize your microphones on Shure.com. So if you just go to Shure.com and look up microphone cleaning, or you can find all of our suggestions there. Obviously, we can't really necessarily make a complete statement on how to sanitize, but we can tell you what products are safe to use and what we've tested. Yeah, exactly. So there are also
not something people talk about a whole lot, and I think it is important too.
People have been talking about it a lot in the past 16 months. I'll tell you that much.
I bet.
Cheryl manages our social media. She is well aware. I'm going to put this in the chat, Cheryl, the link, if you want to throw it in the, I don't know if you can throw it anywhere that they can see it, but probably not in general. But
yeah, it's kind of long. Just I guess go to Shure.com and look up mic cleaning or microphone cleaning and you'll find it. Trust me. Yep, no worries. All right, great. There were also a couple of questions about using mics outdoors and sort of how does that apply to what we've been talking about? Does that change any sort of the techniques? Does that change any sort of those kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, if you are outdoors and you do not have a foam windscreen and it's extremely windy, you can get a little bit closer to the microphone. If you are working with a front of house engineer, they can maybe roll off some of the lower frequencies to adjust and accommodate for that proximity effect. But you do want to be a little more cognizant of your position on the mic so that it's not going to pick up extraneous sounds. But yeah, if you're outdoors, the same fundamentals apply. It's just trying to make sure no extraneous extra things get down there that you don't want.
I wanted to point out when we were talking about front of house and approaching the front of house engineer, someone did chime in with a good comment, which is, made it absolutely, let me know, come to me. I'm always happy when a singer has their own mic. Please let me know if it needs phantom power. If you don't know, which is a good suggestion. For those of you that might not have heard that phrase before, phantom power is something that is required for condenser microphones. So if you're using a condenser microphone like a Beta 87 or a KSM 9 or any other sort of condenser, you will need phantom power. Let your front of house know when you're plugging in that they'll need it because it's a little button they got to push. The other side of that I'll say is if you're using a dynamic microphone, don't worry, phantom power will not hurt it.
Blow it up. Yeah.
Phantom power will power a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone will ignore it. So,
and that little button is labeled plus 48V in case anyone is like, what's this thing do? That's what it is. And it's just providing power up the cable to the diaphragm.
Right.
Right. Here's an interesting question. So we talked about, the 2-finger rule and 3.75 centimeters and, all that good stuff. I had all sorts of fun little centimeter comments come in, ranging between 3.5 and 3.75.
Love it.
We want to get metric too. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But here's a question. What about holding the mic vertically 1.5 inch below the mouth? I have some feelings about this, but
Please do not do that.
So
Please do not do that.
Yeah, I'll jump in and let you know that a microphone, the way a microphone works is by sound waves. And if you put the wave above it, if you're in front of it, the wave is hitting the mic. That's how it's able to create sound. Yeah. If you put it below it, the sound wave is not hitting the microphone directly. This is hitting the microphone directly. This is not. So you have to be.
This is how my mother insists on singing. She's a jazz singer. I am a singer. I work for a microphone company. I'm like, Mom, please just path of least resistance here. And she's always like this. And it's singing right across the top of the diaphragm. As Cheryl said, You want to have those waves, which they're dumb too. They don't know how to go. They just go one way. They're not dumb. They're very smart. I'm being bad.
But that's cruel to the waves.
I know, cruel to the waves and mics today, but yes, sing into the mic, not across the mic.
Beautiful.
So here's a good question. You mentioned blocking out down sound. What mic would be good for a drummer who sings, but then to reject as much sounds from the drums?
Yeah, that's that. So that picture that I showed, to be fair to that drummer, he was probably doing his best to be heard with minimal bleed or minimal drum noise getting into that mic as well. So you can use a microphone that has a super cardioid pickup pattern that's going to reject more of the sounds coming in from the sides of the mic. And you can maintain that 2-finger a little bit closer distance. So I would recommend getting something that has a super cardioid pickup, like one of our beta microphones. A lot of drummers tend to use the SM57, and then the engineer can kind of tweak it to make it sound a little brighter, because they tend to be a little darker for instrumental applications. But that's one that's going to reject a lot more sound just inherently.
Shout out to Levon Helm out there. The singing drummer started a movement.
That's right. There you go. Good call.
All right, let's see. There's a lot of things here that I'm just trying to weed through.
Heck yeah, for audience participation, A+.
This is not necessarily directly related, but I see that Laura, you're connected on your MV7 via USB, and Matt, you're connected via XLR. Is there a latency via the USB?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
No, and that's something to point out about the MV7 that makes it so unique, is that it is both. So if you want to plug directly into your MacBook Pro, which is what I'm doing, you can do that. If you want to plug into your interface, which is what Matt's doing, you can do that as well. So great mic if you're just starting out and you don't want to go down that interface path, but if you want to keep growing and bring on guests and other microphones, you can do that and don't have to get a new mic. Just keep in mind that the DSP processing for the MV7 will not be active on the XLR, but that's okay because your DAW and your interface will do that instead.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. What are common Shure dynamic mics that singers use live besides the 58 and the 57?
Good question. So dynamic microphones, the Beta 58, the KSM8, what else? The 57 is also used for vocalists a lot of the time. Cheryl, I'm trying to think if there's others that are like super common. Oh, well, the Super 55, which is the Elvis mic, the reissue, which I normally have within arm's reach, but I don't. And the Freddie Mercury mic, the 565.
Yeah, Miley Cyrus has been using that one for the past couple of years. So yeah.
Very cool mic.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, there's so many questions here, and I just don't think we're going to get through all of them today, but let me see what else I can pull out here.
And just wanted to throw it out there, if any of them are related to vocal technique, I've got a lot of, stuff out there that people can find, my YouTube channel, my blog. If you have a question about vocal technique, most likely I've answered it somewhere in those two places. So feel free to, just search ramseyvoice.com or whatever, and you'll probably find some answers to that stuff. But we wanted to keep it kind of relevant to what we're talking about with microphones today, since that is the entire topic of what we're talking about.
Right.
And thanks for saying that, Matt, because somebody had actually asked that joined late about a recorded version. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, we do record all of these. It's going to take us about a week or so to get it edited and on our website. But as a follow-up to that, also, we do send follow-up emails through the GoToWebinar platform that will have a link when that is ready. And we'll also include a link to Matt's page so that you can easily get to there as well. So Laura, Matt, make sure you shoot me that link and I'll include it in that follow-up message.
You got it.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Let's see. This is an interesting question. What's the best way to adjust the gain structure to not overload mic signals? That might be a heavy question.
No, I mean, that's trial and error. That's hard to answer because it's based on what you're plugging into. Are you plugging into a mixer? Are you plugging into an interface? Are you plugging into, is front of house taking control? Because they'll handle your gain structure. But, good rule of thumb is if you have an audio meter, it goes from green to red, and you want to be in the green, a little bit of yellow, never red. If you're in the red, you're peaking or clipping or distorting. So in any mixer application or interface application, always stay in the green, a little bit of yellow.
Great. There's also a couple of questions that cropped up about, there are situations where, your band is running the sound yourself, so you don't have a front of house guy or gal or person. And I'll actually speak to that because the gig I had last night, we didn't have a front of house engineer. We
I
run
never
our own
do.
PA. Yeah. So, I think that's a good thing too to keep in mind is, sometimes you need to use your vocal, obviously if you have a great front of house person, you can work with them and rely on them that they're gonna give you the best sound because it's their job to make you sound good, just like it's your job to sound good. But yeah, when you're doing your own sound, then you do maybe sort of adjust your techniques a little bit. Yeah, the band I'm in, it's a co-lead. So there's definitely times where I need to be more prominent and I need to be more subtle. I'm not always good with the subtle side, but I try.
I hear you. And it's important as a singer to take ownership of the sound as well, to know the basics. I'm a singer-songwriter, so when I do all of my solo gigs, I am my engineer and the talent, so it's important to know gain structure. It's important to know that you set your gain and then you ride the fader. Like you have to know what you're controlling before you just go plug into a PA and hope for the best. So there's plenty of courses available. Sure.
And also from a vocal technique perspective too, it's like I have singers all the time where it's like they come in, they only have one volume. It's very, very soft or very, very loud, and there's nothing in between. It's like, okay, this is something that we need to work on because dynamics are nice. And you can't blame the microphone if your voice doesn't necessarily, sound the best if you haven't trained. So just wanted to kind of, don't blame there are no bad mics. Just bad people. I just want
to reiterate that. Just leaving you on that note.
Put a slide up there one more time. Quote Matt Ramsey.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. Well, we need to wrap things up. We have come so far into this journey, and I love this, and we could talk about it all day. But we got things to do. So just to kind of reiterate the points that Matt and I touched on, think of your microphone as an instrument that will enhance your voice, which is the true instrument. Place the mic about 2 fingers away from your mouth, 1.5 inches, 3.25 centimeters. And then this one, which we didn't really cover, but kind of touched on, is to, when you can, experiment with several microphones to find which one works for your voice so that when you are going to the gig and bringing your mic and introducing yourself politely and respectfully to the front of house engineer, you know that that's the right one for you because you've tried several, which is hard right now. But there are some really cool displays at some stores in the US that you can try it at. I will say that. So yeah, that's kind of what we want to leave you with. But as the vocalist, take ownership of your sound and choose a microphone that's going to enhance your natural instrument.
Awesome. And I'll just say, I know that we didn't get to everybody's question. If there is a question we didn't get to and it's just burning a hole in your brain, you can go to shure.com/contact, fill out the form there, and that will be routed to our fabulous application support team. We have a great group of guys and gals that can answer so many audio questions. So shure.com/contact. We also have a very robust FAQ on our page as well. If you go to the Shure page and look up the FAQ and type in a question there, you most likely might find an answer as well. So we want to thank you all so much for joining us. I want to thank Laura and Matt. Laura for all the singing, Matt for all the expertise. As I said, we'll be following up with an email with the recording when it's available and information on how to get in touch with Matt and his website. And we want to thank you so much and hope you have a great day and keep singing.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much.